reason.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel, and I wanted to provide you guys a summary of the Valley Labor Report with Brian Renfroe. It's an interview that he had on the channel where he kind of goes over his thoughts on TA, how he's trying to sell the TA to members, and he gets asked some questions about arbitration and what type of leverage he had, or his reasons for not taking the contract to arbitration, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I wanted you guys to hear from Renfroe, but I also wanted you to hear from other people you guys might have heard about, like Corey from Arbitration, and even your vice president, James Henry. Corey introduced someone new in his A to B arbitration podcast on Spotify. He introduced someone called Charlie Miller, who used to be an arbitration advocate, in his last episode, and I thought it was interesting. He had a lot of insight as someone who's been in the union for a long time, and I thought it'd be interesting to share that with you guys.
Today we're kept in the dark. Rallies are discouraged. Misleading promises that are made, such as historic agreements. Months ago at the National Convention, we were told we were only hours away. Then it became soon. Soon, the contract's coming soon. Finally, when it arrived, the Postal Service got the jump on the NALC and released what the contract was. When Todolo's letter got around, everyone thought that the 1.3 was a farce, that this had to be fake. This is not what the union agreed to. Sadly, it's what it was. Even the bump that the lower step letter carriers are getting, the two-step bump, doesn't keep pace with the cost of inflation. Rents nationwide have gone up 3.8%. If you're in a high cost of living metro area, it's gone up as much as 8.5%. USPS healthcare costs have gone up 10% this year alone. The entire value of the 3.9% pay increase that was tentatively put before us has already exceeded 2024 costs.
It did seem to me low, in the context that we were in, right? Boeing machinists in the Pacific Northwest voted down a 35% general wage increase, and we'll be talking about that, for listeners later in the program. The UAW last year got a 30% wage increase. Teamsters got a 30%. The ILA got 60%, and even traditional federal employees. I'm an AFGE member. You probably didn't know that, but I'm a federal employee, a member of AFGE. 2023, we got a 4.6% annual raise. 2024, we got a 5.4% annual raise. And I hear folks about hear from NALC folks about staff shortages. Seems to me like if I was Postal Service management, I would be begging for significantly higher raises than that. So why do you think it was that management wasn't willing to go further?
Well, I think what you have to look at is not just that general wage increase. That's only one piece of the economic increase. I talked a little bit about the restructure of the pay scale. If you look step by step by step all the way through with the pay increase that we project to go over the course of the entire agreement, it just gradually increases as you go back step to step to step. So once you consider and roll in everything, we feel like that's as fair a way as we could possibly distribute it among, all our members, no matter where they are in the pay scale at any particular point.
Sure, those at the beginning of the pay scale get a raise. Those at the end of the pay scale or at the top of the pay scale get a raise. But those in the middle between step C or D through O don't get anything other than 1.3. One of the things that I have a major concern with is that this tentative agreement does not only does it not keep pace with inflation, We are behind. In 1970, the Wildcat Strike, the first collective bargaining agreement, brought carriers in at $7,322 annually. That was equivalent to step D, which inflation for today would equate to $56,773.19, or $27.27 an hour. This tentative agreement at step D right now makes annually $55,600, or $26.73. In addition, brothers and sisters, this tentative agreement calls for the sun, the moon, and the stars all to align. What do I mean by that? Is that the top end salary that they say that would occur in its fullness is based on projections, based on the COLAs that may or may not occur. There is no guarantee that those COLAs are going to be as projected. Those are not general wage increases.
And when you add in everything that we negotiate economically, general increases, what we know has already taken place in terms of the cost of living, what we project based on the Congressional Budget Office's inflation projections, with what we can project through November of 2026, those at top step will receive a pay increase of about 11.5%. And then as you work back through our pay schedule, it gradually increases on average by about 0.5%, all the way up to those that are early in their career. They should receive a pay increase of around 25%.
In addition, my brothers and sisters, one thing that I want you to keep in mind, if we were to ratify this contract, we are sending a message to the Postal Service headquarters that this contract is sufficient, that we are accepting of what they are giving to us, which most of us consider crumbs. The reality of it is here is that they would have no incentive to give us a living wage in the future by us giving our stamp of approval by voting yes on this contract here. I am a firm believer that the letter carrier deserves to be the first and be industry leaders in wages, benefits, and working conditions. Not enough to just be on par, but to be leaders. And with that being said, I myself am voting no.
If the members do vote this tentative agreement down, and obviously we'll see, and it's going to be up to the members. My understanding is that your messaging around arbitration has been that you feel like you would have a pretty good case at arbitration. Is that still, is that still your position, that you feel that the union would come out pretty good in the case of an arbitration?
We think our case is strong. Our job is hard. But at the same time, we also have to recognize the challenges.
Our president refuses to be on the side of the city letter carrier. He will always buy into the Postal Service's woe is me, we're losing money.
The fact of the matter is they lost $6.5 billion last year, and it's anticipated that when they announce their results for the fiscal year that ended September 30th, they're going to lose somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 billion, which is a reason I chose to finalize this tentative agreement, give our members the choice through ratification as opposed to proceeding to interest arbitration.
So what happens if we go to arbitration? How's it work and what's at risk? How's it work? It's a semi-formal process where we have a neutral arbitrator and two partisan arbitrators. The Postal Reorganization Act plays a significant role in setting the standard for wages, and it requires letter carriers, postal workers, to be paid at a comparable rate to those in private industry. There's no caveat in that says only when the Postal Service is making a profit or only when the Postal Service can afford it. When Congress passed the Postal Reorganization Act, they also gave the Postal Service the ability through the Postal Rate Commission to set its rates and to set the rates contingent upon its cost, and that would include its labor cost. It makes no difference if the Postal Service is making a profit or not. The Postal Reorganization and Congress's intent was that the Rate Commission would raise the rates to cover the cost. How are they going to cover the cost of this current 1.3% increase per year. They're going to raise the rates a few cents. Do you know what it's going to cost them if we get a 5% or 10% or 20% increase in our wages? They just raise the rate a few more cents. It's cents. That's all it is, the difference between us having a decent wage, a wage that we deserve, than where our own letter carriers are making fast food, NALC members making fast food wages, and the APW getting paid more than our entry-level carriers. The arbitration process has to take that in consideration. That's the fundamental thing that they look at. In addition, in 1999, arbitrator Fleischle determined that letter carriers the work was much more arduous for a letter carrier, and that they deserved higher pay. And in his national level award, he recognized that and mandated that letter carriers receive a higher level. What else comes into play? What other considerations that are out there is that there's no justification for an NALC member to make fast food wages. There's no justification that NALC members qualify for public assistance or have to live out of their car. Wages are so low that letter carriers cannot afford its own union's health care. If they get a cheaper health care plan, they stand a chance of going bankruptcy because of the high deductibles on these plans. In my view, we have a very strong case for arbitration. Now, what are the true risks of losing the COLA? Because that's the popular thing that's being bandied about right now. This is not the first time we've gone to arbitration. We've gone to arbitration many times in the past, and we've never lost our COLA. Never. Nothing is without risk. There's a risk in driving to work. There's a risk in walking across the street. And there's a risk of flying off to some far-off vacation destination. Each activity, you assess what the risks are and justify whether or not it's acceptable. Compared to the other activities that we mentioned, the mortality rate of arbitration is pretty low. So some real questions appear here. What is the real level of risk? Are the COLAs at risk? It's unlikely. In my almost 40 years as an arbitration advocate, I can tell you that the level of risk in going to arbitration today is as low as it is as you driving to work.